What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you some news about The Witcher 3. In particular, a bunch of rumors and news potentially about it getting some sort of update sometime, probably in 2026. Now, truth be told, this is the type of thing that I typically ignore because, as someone who reviews games, rumors and speculation aren't necessarily super useful. However, there have been enough things coalescing around this that it seems like something is going on. Now, there have been a lot of people floating the idea of an upcoming paid DLC as a sort of bridge into The Witcher 4, which we know is in the works. And frankly, it feels maybe a little irresponsible to me to push it that far. But obviously, I'm here making the video, so what is this? What is happening? Things like that. Well, basically, if you follow along, say, you review games for a living, that kind of thing, with general video game news, you may well be aware that there have been rumors of an update coming to The Witcher 3, probably dating back to like mid-2025. Now, those hit a bit of a fever pitch recently because it seems like it may have well been all but confirmed in a recent earnings call, in which CDPR and their CFO basically outright said there is a chance that new content hinted at in recent calls and reports might release later this year, which is an important thing to mention because currently CDPR as a company is trying to hit an earnings incentive before a set date, which is some corporate stuff I don't really want to get into, but long story short, there is effectively an on-the-record earnings call, an important thing in which a higher-up executive is directly mentioning some sort of content coming out later this year. Given that we know Cyberpunk 2 is not exactly on the way soon, and that The Witcher 4 was slated for 2027 at the earliest, that suddenly gives all these rumors and ideas about some sort of potential update for The Witcher 3 much more credence. Now, there's actually even more than that, with some recent things like analysts and people saying that they have independent sources verifying some of this stuff. And if all of that was not damning enough, it also seems like that instead of outright denying this, CDPR said they simply have no comment, and that's noteworthy because if a situation like this was spiraling into some big PR buildup, you would almost certainly want to get ahead of that and be like, hey, this isn't a thing that we are doing. Now, that said, given that, again, we don't have actual specifics of what this something is happening here, but I do think jumping straight to some sort of paid DLC-sized expansion is perhaps putting the cart before the horse a little bit. It's possible, I just think you're getting a little carried away, So let's talk about the other side of this. Where is all of this coming from? Essentially, the gist is that this upcoming update or DLC or whatever it supposedly is meant to bridge the gap between The Witcher 3 and The Witcher 4. So if you remember, of course, the announcement trailers and things like that, we're going to be playing as Ciri in The Witcher 4. She has become a full-blown Witcher some way or another, and people are speculating that whatever this update is might, actually explain some of that before The Witcher 4 jumps straight into the narrative of whatever it has going on. And that's why the rumors about what this update actually is would be something set in the deserts of Zerrikania that perhaps explains exactly how Ciri became a proper Witcher, which, while certainly possible within the lore and context of the series, isn't something that can go without some explanation, as the process that turns people into Witchers isn't exactly something that is very common anymore, and so, there would clearly be some sort of process and things that go into all of that, and again, there's some things they would have to explain, but nothing outside the realm of possibility, and the general idea is that that is what this update is supposed to be. Now, the flip side of this is who is making it. As I've already mentioned, CDPR, we know, is working on at least 2 games. They've already mentioned that they're committed to trying to release like a second Witcher trilogy across a period of like 6 years, I think even, which is ambitious to say the least. So it wouldn't exactly seem like they necessarily had the development bandwidth to try to deal with this. And the prevailing theory, and it is again just that, a theory, is that they have offloaded this work onto Fool's Theory. That's important because I've actually reviewed one of Fool's Theory's games called The Thaumaturge, which was pretty good. However, this studio is also behind the upcoming remake of the original Witcher. That was confirmed back in 2022, and it's been pretty silent since then, and you would think we probably would have heard something on that front by now, but it would make a little more sense if they were interrupted to then work on this DLC as a sort of bridge into the 4th game, which is just yet another thing that seemingly certainly lines up with everything we've heard from all of these different sources. But wait, there's more, because if all of that still wasn't enough for you, you may or may not remember that The Witcher 3 was actually due for an update regardless of all of this in the form of console mod support, which was originally due out in 2025 and then was delayed into 2026. And I don't think it's unreasonable then that they may want to roll that out with any potential update that they've also got in the works. And it seems like doing that all at once, potentially out of the blue, would seem like the appropriate move, probably. And so when we start bringing all of that together into something more cohesive, you basically have a variety of different rumors and odd interactions across a variety of different sources, some directly from the CFO, the oddity around not commenting on this and going out of their way not to comment on it. In fact, CDPRs need to hit a certain revenue target for an incentive program, which would almost certainly necessitate the release of, something to actually earn them some money, outside of just the sort of background collection that they have always had, obviously, but they need something to boost those sales a little more directly. And simply put, putting all this together, there's just too many coincidences here. Something is happening. Personally, however, I am not necessarily sold on this being like a full-blown expansion-sized DLC. Something more akin to like a standalone little quest line or something I don't think would be necessarily unheard of. And all of that's before you even jump into the topic of trying to price something like that. DLC for extremely old games does happen sometimes. Just like a year or two back, we saw that surprise release of Neverwinter Nights DLC. But assuming anything like that happens at all, you've already got things like Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, which are really fantastic DLCs for a pretty low price. Blood and Wine is $20. Hearts of Stone is like 10, and is this thing they're trying to do, if it happens at all, going to be more or less than one of those? Again, how do you price that in a way that makes sense with the financial incentive of what they've got going on? So simply put, still a lot of questions, not a lot of hard answers, but I just wanted to point out that, again, something is happening here. Either way, though, I was always going to cover The Witcher 4. If anything actually happens in this space, I will obviously cover that as well. But given how most of these rumors and things are targeting May as an example, I don't think it's unheard of that we might not have that much longer to wait to find out if this is true or not. And so, while it is going to do it for today, we'll see what happens in the future with this. In the meantime, hope you enjoyed the video, thought it was interesting. If you did, by all means, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.